This is a song that came from Turtle Mountain, but it's called Turtle Island Lullaby. And it's a sing-along. You can, please sing along all of it if you know it. I think we've done it 3 or 4 years now. But particularly the Turtle Island Lullaby, that second stanza is the chorus. And you see it repeats regularly. So if you don't want to do the verses, you can do the chorus that way. Okay, here we go. Does sound flat to my ears. And it was. Here we go. My tall fir trees touch the sky, where eagles raise their young. Timber wolves would serenade. When sundown song was sung, salmon swam home to their stream. Every year you find them there. Redwoods like cathedrals, every breath was like a prayer. Turtle Island Lullaby, song for the end of day, to ease us into twilight and send us on our way. We are all related on this planet that we share. Have we learned any lessons? Small blue marble in the air. You wasted all my topsoil. You fished my waters dry. You clear-cut my green trees. I can't breathe and I can't cry. What about your children? How far can you see? What we do to our neighbors becomes our destiny. Turtle Island Lullaby, song for the end of day, to ease us into twilight and send us on our way. We are all related on this planet that we share. Have we learned any lessons? Small blue marble in the air. Over to the bridge. Good night to the salmon. Good night to the seals. Good night to the turtles. May your spirits be free. No one owns the fire. No one owns the air. No one owns the water. The earth's a gift to share. Life itself is sacred. May we one day all be healed. May we find our great compassion when our kinship is revealed. Turtle Island Lullaby, at the end of day, to ease us into twilight, ouch, and send the humans on our way. We are all related on this planet that we share. Have we learned any lesson? Small blue marble in the air. The earth will do just fine without the human race. Maybe it'll be better. Sadly, speaking as a human. Okay, we would like the lights off. Today, I promised something special, and we got it. But it's not a groundhog either. Groundhogs don't look like that. Gopher? Gopher. It's a gopher. 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 Don't eat them. There you go. So Dharma Master Jin He sets the bar high. You filmmakers got to shoot us something now. Okay, lights on, please. Thank you for that. That was done on workweek. What I'd like to do is move us forward in the sutra just a bit as the catalyst for a conversation that I hope we can have once we find out what the sutra wants us to think about tonight. Everybody got one? Avatamsaka Sutra? Okay, turn to page 7. Do not, we're done. All right, now part of this idea is, as I mentioned that first night, that we heard somebody say how nice it was to have a sutra in English. And one of the main things people do with sutras is recite them. You just read them aloud. And there's a real good chance, I suspect, that in the world, nobody has recited the Purifying Practices chapter in English before last year. Where else would it have been translated to allow people to recite it? So, not that we want to be first, we're not competing, but it's interesting to think that these sounds have probably not been put into the air before in English. So there's a historical element to our gathering here. That's interesting to me. So part of what we're doing is reciting it. We probably will not get a chance to explain every single verse, but tomorrow morning, our class, I'm going to talk about Manjusri's instructions and how the verses come back, what form they're in, such as we'll see every second line is the same, 110 times, second line is the same. Why is that? What's that about? We'll find out about that tomorrow. Meanwhile, let's start with disciples of the Buddha. How does one use his or her mind? So paragraph 3, not the top, not the next one, the third one down. Okay, now we're going to recite, before we get started, we're going to recite one section, and we're dividing the section by topic. So this is the topic of leaving home and becoming a monastic, applicable to men and to women, all right? And it ends over on page, all the way over to page 11. Okay, that's a lot of reading, but I think we can do it. And again, as we read, I'd like people to use their ears as much as their eyes. That is to say, listen to the sounds of the whole room. Because it's quite an awesome, wonderful sound to hear people reciting the Buddha's words. You're putting the Buddha's words in your mouth, which is kind of neat. So because so much of what we're going to read is 4 lines, 4 lines, 4 lines, 4 lines, 4 lines, let that rhythm happen and listen to the verse form coming out from the Bodhisattva with the inspiration of the Buddha behind it. Okay? So, ready? Here we go. Disciples of the Buddha, how does one use his or her mind to get supreme and wonderful merit and virtue? Disciples of the Buddha, when a bodhisattva lives as a householder, he thinks, may all living beings recognize the vanity of the householder's life and avoid its oppression. Slight pause. When being filial to my parents, I think, may all living beings serve the Buddhas skillfully, protecting and nurturing everyone. Turn the page, page 8, here we go. When I get along with my spouse and children, I think, may all living beings treat enemy and friend equally, and forever turn away from greed and grasping. When amidst the 5 objects of desires, I think, may all living beings pull out the arrow of lust and get ultimate peace and calm. At festive occasions or musical gatherings, I think, may all living beings see that such pleasures are empty and take Dharma as their enjoyment. When I am in a palace or a house, I think, may all living beings enter the sage's state and be free forever from defiled craving. When I wear a necklace of precious gems, I think, may all living beings renounce all vain ornaments and find what is true and real. When I go up a staircase, I think, may all living beings ascend the stairs of the right Dharma and see through everything clearly. When I have something to give, I think, may all living beings be able to let go of everything, their hearts free of affection and clinging. In a crowd or gathering, I think, may all living beings renounce the dharmas of acquisition and accomplish omniscience. When in suffering and difficulty, I think, may all living beings live as they wish, be at ease, and be unobstructed in all they do. When I renounce the householder's life, I think, may all living beings be unhindered in leaving the householder's life and gain a liberated mind. When I enter the monastery, I think, may all living beings proclaim all kinds of principles free from error and contention. When I visit senior or junior teachers, I think, may all living beings skillfully serve their teachers and elders and learn to practice wholesome dharmas. When I request permission to enter monastic life, I think, may all living beings get non-retreating dharmas and be unobstructed in their minds. Turn over to page 10. When I take off my worldly clothes, I think, may all living beings diligently cultivate good roots and renounce all errors and obstructions. When shaving my head, I think, may all living beings forever leave behind defilement and dust and achieve the ultimate in still quiescence. When I put on the precept robe, I think, may all living beings have undefiled minds and complete the great immortal's way. Having truly left the home life, I think, may all living beings leave the householder's life like the Buddha to rescue and protect all beings. In taking refuge with the Buddha, I think, I vow that living beings continue the Buddha's lineage and make the unsurpassed resolve. In taking refuge with the Dharma, I think, may all living beings enter deeply into the sutra treasury and have wisdom like the sea. In taking refuge with the Sangha, I think, may all living beings unite and lead the Great Assembly, one and all in harmony. When initially receiving and learning precepts, I think, may all living beings learn skillful self-control and refrain from every evil. When receiving the Acharya's teaching, I think, may all living beings perfect an awe-inspiring presence, true and genuine in what they do. When receiving the teachings of a great monk, I think, may all living beings enter the wisdom of no further births and reach the place of independence. When receiving the full precepts, I think, may all living beings be endowed with every expedient means and master the most supreme Dharma. That's good. We'll stop right there. What comes next is meditation. The next handful of verses are about meditation. Okay, we just read aloud the section on the Bodhisattva making a big change, entering the clergy, leaving behind the householder's life, and joining a fraternity that's been in the world straight ahead for 2,600 years, and a sorority, you could say. Before we jump, while those sounds are still fresh, anybody have a comment or a question about what, did anything like pop up in your mind that you really want to ask about as we read? Now, if we were all Americans, there would be 6 hands. If we were all Caucasian, there would definitely, Spike, count on it.
I guess, what was the Chinese that was translated pink? When I find think in translation,
When I find,
the word think,
I think.
when I think, it's
What's Chinese?
it's not there. That word is not there. We added it last year. That was our, remember? You were here, right? When you weren't here last year, okay. So why do we do it? We put the verses into the mind of the Bodhisattva and into your mind at the same time. Before, it was I vow, okay? And we thought about it, and vow, V-O-W, I make a vow, that's heroic language. Two, it's not familiar to us. What is familiar? Prayer is familiar. These are prayers. And if we, may it be so. It's also, Mr. Spock, or, Captain Kirk, may it be so. And it's a wish, it's a prayer, and so the I think makes it an internal experience. Okay? So we actually added that. All right? More comments or questions?
So this practice is that when they're in the midst of the first line, they would, I guess, activate the thought of may all living beings ...
Mm-hmm.
It's like, is it a conscious effort at first?
Is it a
Conscious effort at
conscious effort? I'm assuming. I think so. The idea is that this chapter takes the Bodhisattva from early morning, actually from leaving home, going into the monastery, and then coming back out into the village, into the city, to collect alms, and it's a reflection on everything he or she sees during the day. It's really a day in the life of the Bodhisattva. You'll see as we get into it. So every situation prompts a response in the mind of the Bodhisattva. And the neat thing about it is, it's kind of like a window opens in the Bodhisattva's heart, and we get to see what he thinks. When this thing happens, what does a Bodhisattva think? Okay?
It just seems like at some places it says like in taking refuge with the Dharma, and in other places like the most supreme Dharma,
Yeah.
and then offensive Dharmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems as if the definition of Dharma changes
It
from
does.
just the whatever it is with like the Buddhist teachings or
Right.
what, and other times it's people's
Different.
beliefs.
It's different. Okay.
Yeah, it seems
So
to
you
change.
pick that out. Here's a quick way to think about it. Capital D Dharma, like in taking refuge with the Dharma, that's talking about the Buddha's teachings. So the whole thing the Buddha taught. That's the capital D Dharma. Okay. Small d Dharma, it's really talking about a different thing, uses the same word, which is confusing. Okay? Small d Dharma is talking about things like phenomena, just things. So we say, oh, well, cooking, that's a really good Dharma. Or, the Dharma of driving the pickup up the hill. Okay, that would be small d Dharma, meaning the thing about driving the truck up the hill safely. So we say 10,000 Dharmas, meaning everything you meet, all phenomena, that's small d. Okay? So it's unfortunate that two very different ideas have the same word. In Sanskrit, was it originally the same, or?
Yeah.
It's just entirely the same.
Dharma, yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad. So
They've got many other meanings.
yeah, there's all kinds of other meanings to imitate. Yeah. So that's your answer. Okay. What is interesting here for us tonight, I think, is to contemplate what it means to enter the Buddha's Sangha community as a monastic, as a clergy. And that notion, I think, is going to change in the West from what it was for the last 1,000 years in China and in Vietnam, in Asia. What is a monk? What's a bhikshu? What's a bhikshuni? What's a monastic? What's a disciple of the Buddha? We don't have a firm definition yet. It's probably going to take maybe 50 years, 100 years for it to really set itself up. For example, we've got one fashion sense and one haircut here. 3 guys, 1 haircut, right? And, you know, it's like our style never goes out of style. And we never have a bad hair day. We save a lot of money on shampoo. So why would people dress like this in this costume? I mean, it's such a strange costume. Chances are, in the next 20 years or so, it's going to be a different robe. We're probably not going to keep this Tang Dynasty court robe because it's not functional now. It doesn't work now. Going up a staircase, you got to pick it up or you trip on it, right? And it does function. Robes per se keep you cool in hot weather. So you notice people who live in deserts often wear robes. And they also keep you warm when it's cold. You can wrap them up, wrap your legs. And they're unisex. They don't show, you know, gender. So that's a good thing. They're practical that way. And we try to get colors that don't show dirt so much. You know, you don't have to wash them all the time, you know. And furthermore, nobody wants to steal it. Nobody looks at this and goes, wow, nice robe, monk, you know, hey. You know. So the Buddha deliberately told his monks to find pieces of cloth cast off, often where? In a graveyard. Sky burial, you put the corpse out or you burn it, and the robes kind of flap around. He said, use that cloth, wash it, cut it, dye it, turn it into your robe. Guaranteed nobody will steal it. Nobody wants it, right? So, interesting. That's the outside. That's the outside. But the what the sutra is giving us is the interior life of the bodhisattva, right? We're immersing ourselves in what bodhisattvas think. I like that. The fact that the sutra is so human, right? It's not abstract philosophy. When I see this, I think may, so, you know, and it's ennobling too. But look at, I mean, if you say, oh, what did you do last week up there in Oregon? Well, we touched a Buddhist scripture. What's a Buddhist? Oh, it's a 2,600-year-old book. You know, well, what was it? Well, we found out what these superheroes think. The sutra takes you right into their minds. Here's what they think. And it's not abstract or obscure or weird. It's like, oh yeah, wow, that's really unselfish. You know, every single thought is away from me to everybody. It's away from the selfish to the collective, to selfless. It's away from me to living beings, you know. Wow, that's very neat. I mean, it's a living document. And you can see why Master Hua really wanted us to open them up and take a look what there is. Otherwise, it's like, oh yeah, that's the Buddha's words. I can't read it, you know. Plus, I'm not interested. It's like, ooh, how does an enlightened person think? There it is right there. Amitabh. What? Yeah, what?
There's something like this, posted on in the half can.
Okay.
Were they also in the same chapter, or were they made up by somebody else?
Okay, you picked out something very interesting, which is, there goes the projector bulb. That's yeah, we'll see. Flicker. Okay. There's a phenomenon that the Chinese Buddhist teachers took out 53 of these 100 episodes and gave them to brand new monks and nuns and said, memorize these and use them all day long. When you become, there are only 3 of us here to testify, but if the nuns are here, they would be nodding their heads. When you get trained as a monk or a nun, you memorize what are called 53 xiaozhou, 53 small mantras, and they apply to situations all day long. So Amitabha picked out, right, is it the hand washing? What's down there?
Hand washing, I'm thinking about brushing your teeth.
Okay, brushing your teeth, he picked it up. You know, he's got some monk affinities there somewhere back then. You know? So, right, all day long, first thing you do in the morning, before you put your foot down outside of your bed or your bench, from early morning till close of day, all beings must look out for themselves. If I should crush your form beneath my feet, may you be quickly reborn in Amitabha's Pure Land. 中道眼淡知之目，一切众生自会护，饶因无意伤其心，愿我即使生净土. Okay? Recite that immediately, every day of my life, right? Because why? It's to say, I got this big, clumsy body. There are lots of little critters running around. What if I squash you without even knowing it? Or under my car tires if I'm driving? Or, you know, drown you in the sink. There are ants, and what if they drown? You know, you're already giving notice in your mind that this is done unintentionally. Now, does it change the karma? No. You still killed those living beings, but at least your mind is there setting up this sense of transference, right? I pray for you. May those living beings. Now, that particular verse is not in here, interestingly, but of the 53, many, many, many come directly from the Avatamsaka Sutra's Purifying Practices chapter. And monks and nuns, if they're trained, do recite those. Brush my teeth, bite through afflictions, be ultimately pure. Shaving my head, shave away the roots of afflictions and be ultimately pure. So, very neat, right? So thank you for that. Yeah, this chapter, when a lot of monks and nuns don't get a chance to study the Avatamsaka Sutra, their teachers don't lecture on it, right? Master Hua, by doing that, is really rare. So whenever they by any chance, pick up the Pure Conduct chapter, they go, whoa, where have I, that's the 53 months. You mean to say they came from the sutra? Son of a gun, who knew that? You know, wow. We're reciting the Avatamsaka Sutra when we do our 53 mantras all day long, right? So, okay, thank you for that comment. Now, you want to talk about accessing the Dharma? Yeah. What I think is most interesting about our group tonight is, what's a monk or nun? I'm going to suggest that we don't know yet. And the bigger question is, for each individual to answer, how do you react to religious authority? Who says? How do you react to religious authority? You could take the question one step further and say, who is the Buddha to you? Who's the Buddha? Well, that, and there he is, right there on the altar, right behind us, you know. Yeah, that's an answer for sure. So, not to push on that too quickly right now, but who is a religious authority? Who tells you the story that you believe? Who is it? Was it Shifu? Or is it the Fasher? Or is it a woman? Can a woman be a religious authority? Why not? You know, who is a religious authority for you? And we're setting up the clergy in the West. What is the role of the Buddhist clergy vis-a-vis the religious authority, the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas? That's the question. And I'm going to suggest that in Asia, it's become something that it won't become in the West. I think the West is going to do that role differently based on what Master Hua sketched out for us, and the role he gave us. And just think about this, and I want to ask Jin He to add his comments. Think about this. If you see the Buddhist clergy, the monks and the nuns, getting in between you and the Buddha, maybe you want to rethink the relationship, right? If it's like, oh, you must actually, you're not allowed to read the sutra. That's not good for you to read the sutra. You need to actually buy my commentary. Only through the commentary can you understand the Buddha's words, right? And I wrote the commentary and I'll sell it to you, or you have to go online and subscribe, you know, whatever. That would be a different understanding of what I saw Master Hua set up the clergy to do, which is what? Monks and nuns face the Buddha. Lay people face the Buddha. The monks and nuns do it full time. The laity do it as much as they can. All right? And think about this. More precisely, Master Hua said, there's the Buddha, pay attention to your own mind. The direction is not out to the Buddha or the clergy, it's no matter whether you're a layperson or a monastic, look within. Buddhism says, there's the power source, access it directly. The monks and nuns are there to inspire you, to serve as what? Fu Tian Sung, fields of blessings. Right? Monks in Sri Lanka, monks in Thailand, they are blessings generators. Bhante, be still, please. I want to put this in your bowl because my kid has to get to Stanford. You know, Ami Tofo, you know. They don't even say Ami Tofo. So, and really, the monks say, man, I'm so tired of being a merit-making machine, you know. Bhante, slow down. I want to make this offering to you, you know. Okay, my bowl's full. Okay, here you go, you know. Of course, they don't do that. But it's like, whoa, you know, the monks and nuns do not stand between you and the Buddha. Everybody faces the Buddha personally, directly. And, more correctly, you hui guang fan zhao and look within. Okay. Comments?
So this came out of a discussion Rev Heng Sure, Jin He, and myself had this morning. So Rev Heng Sure pretty much said it all. But coming from me, I would say that when I first encountered the Dharma or the Buddha's teachings, I felt that the monks and nuns were the ones that held the secrets to the text, to the teachings. And it was only through them that I could gain access to what it meant, and that their interpretations were always correct. And that if I asked them a question, their answer would be the one that I would follow rather than me doing that. But now I'm on the other side of the fence, and it's really different because I realize that it's still me. And now when I go back to Malaysia or when people come to the monastery, sometimes I'm seen as how I would see monks and nuns as before. And I realize that the only difference is what Rev Heng Sure said. We just have more time to investigate. We have more time to reflect on the text. We have more time to reflect on the meaning and the potential transformation of the text and our experiences of growing up that makes the Dharma come alive. Because unless that happens for everyone here, it's interesting. It's theory, it's principle, it's very, very interesting, it's wisdom, but until you bring it inside you and allow it to transform yourself, it's not Dharma. So monks and nuns, we do that full time, and we are able to share that. But it doesn't mean that only monks and nuns can do that. All of you here there's no barrier between you and the Buddha's teaching. All of you have the same, I would say that a lot of the lay people I've met have better understanding of the Dharma than I do. So when it comes to wisdom, when it comes to understanding the Dharma, I think being in robes doesn't make that much of a difference. It's just what we want to do because we want to walk the path to liberation full time. And we can share what we know, but it doesn't mean that it's definitive. It just means that what I share with you right now is my current understanding of what I'm reading. In 5 years' time, it might change. In a week, it might change. I might see something that makes me reflect and have a deeper understanding or change my understanding totally. So I guess like in my case, I would prefer having a discussion where everyone shares, and so everyone gets different perspectives, because to me that's what the Dharma is, different perspectives. expanding how you see one thing, not just through your eyes, but through the eyes of others. Because it's only through that that the Dharma comes alive. Other than that, it's at arm's reach. Is that what we?
Good. That's great. Yeah, comment.
Different branch of the school that will
Louder, please. Can't hear.
It is my understanding some different branch of a Buddhism school will call Sangha, 上师 as the foremost important access dharma. So that's probably outside of it.
So, okay, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me your name again. Your Mimi. So Mimi said it's her understanding that other schools do Sangha differently. That's exactly what we said about the Theravada tradition. The Theravada tradition, the rule of the laity is pretty much to generate merit and create blessings, to support the monastics. It's rare that the monastics encourage the laity to cultivate alongside. Okay, so.
That's not what I meant.
Oh, okay.
藏传佛教，藏传佛教
你
上师
大声一点，我听不到。
对不起，哎，
你用中文讲没关系的。
好，我跟你讲，
啊
我想说的是藏传佛教上师为第一。
哦
The 上师 is your main access to Dharma.
Okay.
是不是这样 ？Different branch of
Okay. So there.
藏传佛教。
Okay. So there's a Tibetan. She's talking about the Tibetan tradition. That's another. There are national versions of Buddhism. America, Canada will come up with our own. Australia will come up with our own. There is a tradition, but mind you, the Tibetan Buddhist tradition is not one tradition. There are multiple traditions. Okay, for example, His Holiness the Dalai Lama is a Gelug, and he's also the political leader. So he has a very different role than, he calls himself a simple Buddhist monk, and he means it. But in fact, he is the leader of the entire nation. But Tibet was a place, it was essentially called a theocracy. Theocracy, right? Instead of a democracy. That is to say, above 10,000 feet, the lamas, particularly the Rinpoches, the ones who were discovered, had a really, really important role. They had all the education. Most of the average Tibetan families couldn't afford to educate. So it's a very different role. Burma, the very same situation. In Burma, the Burmese language came in with the Buddhist Sangha. Before the monks arrived, before the establishment of Buddhism happened around the 14th century, there was no written language. So the Burmese language came with the sutras, interestingly. So the role of the monastic included doctor, right? If you got sick, you went to the monastery to get healed. So of course there are differences. Those are national differences, cultural differences. Master Hua was giving us a brand new definition of what a monastic could be, right? And it's still in progress. It's not fully shaped yet. We don't know. For example, if you go to China now and you go looking for nuns, right? You go to the Mahayana tradition, you look for the nuns, they say, oh, 有后山有一个道场，尼姑庵. Okay, and there's like 2 or 3 really large Bhikshuni centers. One's in Tianjin. It's Jianfu Guanyin Si, Miao Xian Fa Shi. She's the leader of, she's actually, a part of the Communist Steering Committee. She's profoundly well-educated, Beida, and a nice person. But she's the exception. And if you look in the Tibetan tradition, there are no ordained Tibetan nuns. They don't do women, right? If you want to be part of the Tibetan Bhikshuni tradition, you have to go to Taiwan or Malaysia to get ordained. Then you come back and put on red robes. And that's another story. We could go into that later. But Thailand, no such thing as a Thai Bhikshuni. There are 10 precept nuns, the equivalent of Shramanerikas. They're called Shiladaras. And that is not likely to change for a long time, because why? It's so much part of the culture that the Dharma is carried by the men, that if Thai women dressed up as bhikshunis and went out into the villages with their bowls for alms, chances are they wouldn't get any, because the laity wouldn't recognize them. Okay, in Burma right now, we just saw a film, just showed at the Berkeley Monastery the other night. A filmmaker made a film about nuns in Burma, in Myanmar. Okay, if you're a monk in Myanmar, you go out, they put food in your bowls. If you're a nun, they put bai mi. 没有盛饭, 没有煮饭. You take it back and you cook it yourself. So women only get raw rice, men get cooked food. So, okay, cultural differences. The Dharma has been in those countries for a very, very long time. When it arrived, it absorbed the way gender was done in the country. You can't expect them to be, 20th century liberal, 21st century liberal American type, not. So, how are we doing Buddhism in America? Well, the nuns at City of 10,000 Buddhas outnumber the men 5 to 1. Okay? Our tradition is largely a part of the Taiwanese and the Vietnamese. How many powerful Vietnamese bhikshunis are there? A lot. How many powerful Taiwanese bhikshunis are there? Well, there's Zheng Yan Shangren, the head of Tzu Chi. There is Shaoyun Fashi, who created Huafan University, right? There's all kinds of powerful nuns in Taiwan. How interesting, right? Questions, comments? So, interesting. So all these ins and outs, right? What does that mean for us? The question is, who gives the religious authority? When you want to believe in the Buddha, whose story do you listen to? That's the question. Who's got the power? That's the question I want to raise. And think about it. Well, Fasher, you do, because you're sitting in the middle. Well, but, I was raised Methodist. I heard the Buddha's story as a young man. I responded to it and met Master Hua and decided that was what I was supposed to do. But why do you, why bow to? What about, I think if you bowed to Shifu and said, Shifu, you're the authority, he would say something like, and I can't put words in his mouth, he would say something like, don't bow to me, listen to yourself. Right? I didn't create the Dharma, right? It's from the Buddha. And the Buddha would say, if you pay attention to me, you'll never, ever wake up. You have to listen to your own mind. You have to really pay attention to what's going on that mind ground they talk about. Talking about the mind like a garden. The thoughts that grow there ultimately are your religious authority. In the end, you cultivate yourself. So as much as power as you give us, that's how much you have to pull back before you will ever wake up. Whose religious authority, whose story are we believing? Or you could say, who's the Buddha? Question, hand in the air. That's Alex.
Speaking of people in authority, who's the patriarch and is there one right now?
Oh, wow. Okay, so who's a patriarch? Patriarch is a religious authority, for sure. What do you say?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah, a patriarch would be a religious, that means like father. Patriarch is a dirty word right now in the enlightened West, right? What are people calling it? They're calling it ancestor. The Platform Sutra, the sixth ancestor, clunk. Doesn't sound right. We say sixth patriarch right away. Patriarchy usually means misogyny to people. And under the patriarchy of, the hierarchy, lots of mischief was done. Lots of harm came from patriarchs. There's no such thing as the sixth matriarch, right? You go laugh at that. Well, why not? Why not? So your question is a good question. What's a patriarch? It's unfortunate that the patriarch of Buddhism, the patriarchs of Buddhism, have that same word as patriarchy, which is to say men in power abusing their authority, pretty much. People understand? If this was Berkeley, there would only be nodding heads, you know. So just like here, we're like, what? You know, what? So just to know that that word is radioactive right now. So what's a patriarch? Let's use the word authority. You know, why was the sixth patriarch one we remember? Because he was what?
Didn't they want to kill him?
They tried to kill him. Yeah, there were murder attempts on the sixth patriarch. Okay, there's the Buddha, and the Buddha for sure is a historical figure. He was a prince. He was put into this place where he never saw anybody get old, never saw anybody get sick, never saw anybody die. And then suddenly he saw somebody old, somebody sick, and somebody dead. It stopped his world, and he said, I gotta find a way out of this. Nothing has ever defeated me. The prince was a total champion. He was a superhero. Nothing defeated him. Athletics, he was the champ. Scholarship, he was the brightest student, right? Goodness, he was the goodest child. He was going to be king, right? Suddenly he saw all that was going to be in vain, vanity. It's going to go zip to zero. He's going to die. And it reoriented his thinking. He said, I got to find a way out. Aha, here comes that fourth messenger, someone who looked just like Jin Chuan, maybe not with the glasses, but, right? And the prince said, who are you? And the guy said, 对不起，我不会讲梵文, you know. No, he said, I am a cultivator. Well, what do you cultivate? I cultivate the way. What way do you cultivate? The way that ends birth and death. And the prince, desperately hoping that here's a road, says, who can do that? And the ascetic cultivator said, anyone can. You will follow me, he said. Follow me. And 6 years later, he woke up. All right, so there's a religious authority. He was like the first patriarch, you could say, the first one awake. All right? From him came a succession of 28 more teachers, men, with women in there. They weren't recorded in history, but there were women who woke up as well. And the 28th of them came to China. His name was? Not. Who was it? We got over here. Patriarch Bodhidharma. Damo Zushi, correct. Bodhidharma. He was the 28th. Count 28 more, and you get to, interestingly enough, Master Hsuan. He was the 28th patriarch in China. Okay, your second part of your question was, who's the patriarch now? Well, he didn't name anybody. Might be you. You got to grow up quickly. I see a lot of hair. You got to lose some of that. But, you know, why not? We don't have one at the moment. Now, the question would be why? Well, good question. You have to go ask Shifu. But I think it has something to do with what Americans do with religious leaders, is we put them up on a pedestal and then pull them down. And we are profoundly horizontal and democratic. I want to tell you what I think about that. Call on me. I got an opinion. You all want to listen to me. That's the way we do public figures. And so who did Master Hua appoint? He appointed 5 monks and 9 women, a group of 14 people, to be the men's and women's coordinating committee. That kind of preserves the ratio, basically, of more nuns than men. So he put more women in charge of the Sangha than men, interestingly, right? 14 people. Now, some of them have changed since then. It's not the same 14, but consensus is the way he pointed us to make our decisions. Talk about it. Use wisdom together. So there's no main leader, no single patriarchal figure anymore in concert with the times. 29. We would be 29 if there was one. The 29th chairman of the board. Chairman of the board, yeah. We got a board of directors. So it's interesting. So what, and what he did give us, he gave us the mind ground. Xindi, he said, Hui Guang Fan Zhao, look within, use the 6 guidelines to cleanse your mind and wake up. And he gave us the sutras. And he gave us the precepts. He gave us the Vinaya, right? So, interesting. Could we, question. You're only scratching your nose. Oh, I'm so disappointed. I thought you had, okay. Could we look at Yashodhara, page 24? Page 24. Who is Yashodhara? Anybody know? The Buddha's wife, correct. Is Rocky Raccoon going to dance again? By request. Prince Siddhartha had a wife. He loved her like he loved life. She was fine and she was fair, and when he said goodbye, he said to her, Yashodhara, look at where life leads. Yashodhara, I'm gonna try to get free. I took a little trip into town. I learned that death will cut us down. I woke up by the city wall. Freedom to die is no freedom at all. Yashodhara, look at where life leads. Yashodhara, I'm gonna try to get free. Like you, I never heard an old man sigh. I never knew that people die. I never heard a sick man moan. Today I learned this body ain't my home. Yashodhara, death is haunting me. Yashodhara, love won't set us free. And I saw another man who walked in robes with bowl in hand. His gaze looked neither left nor right. His brow was clear, his eyes were bright. I asked him what he did all day. He said, I cultivate the way. I watch my mind, I watch my breath, and in the end it's life and death. Yashodhara, I couldn't love you more. Yashodhara, that's why I'm walking out this door. That's the Bodhisattva path right there. Now some will say that I'm a fool, and some will say that I'm too cruel. This is the best thing I can do. When I get free, I'll come back for you. Yashodhara, look at where life leads. Yashodhara, I'm going to try to get free. So that's the ballad of a bodhisattva who leaves home because he wants to set his loved ones free. I think that's interesting. I mean, that's the motive is what? The motive is selfless. On the last page of your songbook, this is interactive. This is designed to be just a vehicle for your best wishes. Here's a chance for you to say, I think, may all living beings. When I see this, when I get the chance to transfer, I think, may all living beings, then you fill in, make it yours. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds away to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light break the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Boy, that sounds so good, you know, that the hall really resonates with everybody's voice.